Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Chloe Meyer here with Lafaya Mitchell. Lafaya is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and today she's going to talk to us about emotion soaking.
Yes.
Lafaya, do you want to tell us a little bit of what that is?
Okay. We're just gonna jump right in. Okay. So emotion soaking is a term that I actually came up with, and I didn't really mean for it to become like a term either, but that I actually came up with to describe what I noticed would happen when I was working with kids on it started out actually with kids on the autism spectrum. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I noticed right away was my first case was this young guy. He was about 7 years old, and he would always do just fine when I was having a really good day internally. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So now I would try to come to work and, professionally, I try to behave in the same way every day, right? But I was having some in my personal life, some tumultuous times. So it was interesting because when I would go in and I was having a bad day internally, this kid would just be acting out. Like there wouldn't be anything I'd be saying or doing differently. It would just be how I felt on the inside. So I'm like, what is this? Like I realized I had to like seriously bring my A game whenever I saw this kid. I was like, if I don't have like my Zen down, like I feel like he contributed to my starting to do like all that searching for like finding your Zen and like all those own moments and all that. So that just so I could try to keep my peace like on the inside. And so I don't know how it happened, but just all of a sudden I just started to say, you know what? This kid, like, he emotion stokes. He's clearly like he's not reacting to what I'm saying to him, to the words that are coming out of my mouth at all. He's reacting to everything though that's coming from me on the inside. Like if I'm having a really bad day or really sad or something like that, it would be almost like he was mimicking whatever
Mm-hmm.
emotions I was feeling. So it was such a strange feeling to me because when you work with kids on the spectrum, from everything I read, because when I first started working with this kid, I didn't know very much about autism spectrum. So it was very interesting. I had never really been exposed. Now, once the exposure came, then I started to understand it better. Then I learned a lot, a lot. But through this research that I was doing, they said the kids were so removed and that they, weren't connected with other people, kind of off in their own world. And what I learned was like the exact opposite. They're super in tune, like super in tune to what's going on with everyone else. And the reason that they isolate and get away from everyone else is because all of that intunement becomes overwhelming. Because then you're taking on the feelings of everybody. So then it really helped me to understand why kids on the spectrum tend not to like to be in crowds, and there was a lot of things that I learned through that. But anyway, emotion soaking, eventually, I ended up defining it as the unintentional sponging of the feeling energies of other people. Now, this was interesting because people were like, oh, well, isn't that just like an empath? But I would venture to say almost nobody, so most people raising kids on the spectrum would ever say that their kids were empaths. Because when you think about empaths, you think about those who have like that extreme ability to empathize with what's going on with other people. Whereas when you're dealing with kids on the spectrum, then what you tend to get is kind of like the opposite. They tend to be like on their own agendas, not able to consider other people, but not very engaged with considering other people, and for many reasons. And so I had to really take the term and define it and help them understand that emotion soaking happens for both. Okay, so they are both sponging the feeling energies of others. Their empath is having a different reaction to that. And kids that I decided, and I don't know where this came from in me either, to call hypersensitive, which has taken me down a whole, interesting road because people don't know what hypersensitive means most of the time. And it's understandable because of the way the word is put together. So they're like, what do you mean by hypersensitive? So again, when you're talking about kids on the spectrum, the parents will say, well, some parents say my kid is not sensitive at all. Like they're very insensitive, right? And I'm thinking, no, not in that way. I mean, sensitive as far as like stimuli outside of themselves, sensory input, those are the sensitivities that I'm talking about. So if I
Mm,
were to say that, the parents didn't explain it in that way, then they're like, oh yeah, they're very sensitive then, right? Like the
mm-hmm,
taste of food and the feeling of certain, certain fabrics, or even being touched, things like that. So, but hypersensitive kids tend to do a high degree of emotion soaking. And then as I continued further into my work, so I was working with not only children on the autism spectrum, but I was working for an intensive outpatient program. So I was working with kids who were, had moderate to severe anxiety or mood issues, but then also those with reactive attachment disorders, foster children, adoptive children, those kind of things. And what I learned is they tend towards being very hypersensitive as well. And when you find as kids, and those from even like a trauma background, and that's a whole other subject. But when you talk about trauma background, because most kids that experience certain types of struggles, they end up having a bit of trauma. There's no choice but to have had experienced trauma because of the lack of ability to connect effectively with other people. So that in and of itself for human beings is traumatic. But whole other subject. Anyway, what I noticed about the hypersensitive kids was that they really did to a very high degree tend towards emotion soaking. So parents would get so upset with their children because they say, well, I try to say everything so nicely, or, or I never yell, or these things, but they're still having these strong reactions to me. The interesting thing for me is I ended up coining the term because I understood it very well because I've always been a high emotion soaker. Now I could not have
mm,
defined that when I was younger at all. I come from a trauma history, so I couldn't have defined it as emotion soaking at all. The only way I could have defined it is I hate all people, especially when I was younger. I hate all people. I don't want to be around them. They're all fake. Nobody says what they really mean. They smile at
mm,
you, but on the inside, they're very angry or upset. And I found people to be untrustworthy and very
mm,
easygoing. And so when this kid was getting upset on those days when I didn't feel very good, then I was like, oh, after a while when I realized that's what he was doing, because I was like, oh, I do the same thing. So that's why I was able to pick up on it. And I was like, dang, I don't even blame you for not wanting to be around me. Like I must be terrible to you right now because I must make you feel terrible because you're drawing from what I'm feeling on the inside, which is a lot of hurt, right?
mm-hmm,
It's been a very interesting road since then because once I figured that piece out, I was able to help so many parents who would go to several different providers, didn't matter what type of provider it was, and they'd just be missing the mark each time. So then the child would be considered one who was failing treatment. But with this
mm,
understanding about emotion soaking and being able to teach that to the parents, teaching the parents to teach the teachers and other people that dealt with the
mm,
children about emotion soaking itself so that people
mm-hmm,
can understand where some of the maybe some of the extra uh, escalation was coming from kids that seem to be having calm interactions with, I mean, other people have calm interactions with them. Once that was understood, it was a game changer for many, many families.
It's amazing that you said that. You were saying the parents have to teach now, like at the school, because I've seen your testimonies that have come across that are for the amazing things that you do with your clients and their children. And a lot what I see over and over again is the child that before they come and see you, they're getting ready to be expelled from school, and then all of a sudden you come along and you teach this, and all of a sudden it's they function. So I think it's important that you were saying that they teach the teachers, because if they're doing that at home and the teacher's a human being, and if they're frustrated with the kids, they're going to say, oh, you don't say it, but they're probably feeling it, or maybe even showing a little bit. And that's also a problem with schools, when
Yeah.
not because they don't know any better, right? The teachers don't know about emotion soaking.
Yeah, it's amazing as I've been doing the work. So I've been doing this work for over 20 years. So, but as I was doing the work, it was almost expected to have parents say, oh, my child has so much trouble and struggle in school. They had 1 year, they had this one teacher that for some reason they didn't act out with. They did perfectly fine with this teacher. And it's interesting because I always ask them, were they pretty laid back, pretty calm demeanor, not really seeming toward moving towards like that kind of anxious type of person and that personality and that kind of thing. They're like, yes, they just everything that my kid would do, this thing that seemed like something other teachers would have a fit about, and this teacher would just be like, okay, well, I'm going to need you to come over here and do this now. Like just redirect them. No strong feeling or reaction to it. But most of the time, most of the teachers, and it's tough because I have to say most of them because that's been my experience over 20 plus years, is
Right.
most of the teachers do well or do pretty well, fairly well with children who don't act out because the classroom sizes are so big, it can become overwhelming to have one person in there who is socially inappropriate or emotionally disruptive, right? Or disruptive. And then you have to be able to manage all 20 or 30 children in the classroom. So most of the time what happens is if there's one that acts out, then that gives them a true feeling, of anxiety, because then they feel like they almost have to address just that kid alone. And then what do you do with all the rest of the kids in the classroom? But there are those few out there that can truly handle those situations, and where it's feeling to them like, okay, well, this is just, all I have to do is focus on the solution, right? Focus on the
Right.
solution, which is, okay, well, do you need a break? What is it that you need? Well, let's have you, and not just go to the office, but have it be an experience where, oh, are you having a hard time? Okay, well, how about we set up or we arrange, through a school counselor or whatever, that we arrange kind of a space for you to be able to go to, so that when you're not feeling the greatest, you can kind of go and just regulate a little bit, and then come back and join us, right? So most parents don't. Most teachers, they wouldn't know to do that, but it's very important to recognize how it becomes vital that you learn how to move into these solution focused areas, because this not only will help you in the way that you'll now know what to do, so you'll be less emotionally reactive. And I don't mean emotionally reactive on the outside, because most people tend to get that confused. I don't mean it for, there are lots of good teachers out there, lots of good therapists out there, that they can maintain that professionalism outwardly. But there is a lot more out there that they are not able to maintain themselves internally. And once we learn about how to manage ourselves internally, what you'll find is that you'll have a lot more success with sensitive people or in very sensitive situations.
So let's go back, and for people that came in a little bit later, can you redefine emotion soaking? And then let's talk about how do you identify as a parent or a teacher when it's happening, and what are some of the steps, other than you already talked about one, like finding a quiet place and pulling it together and then coming back. So could you answer those three? Redefine it, how to
Okay.
recognize it, and steps.
Okay. So redefining emotion soaking. Emotion soaking is the unintentional sponging of the feeling energies of other people. Now, and I have to overemphasize feeling energy as an internal experience, because sometimes people think that even though we know logically that our feelings come from inside of us, right? Now, we may react to them outwardly, but it's an internal experience to start. Now, people tend to think that if they don't act out, then their feeling space is fine. But that's not the truth, especially when you're dealing with an emotion soaker. You have to recognize this has to do with you. If you feel that, people know what it feels, that discomfort. I call it the burn, the
Mm-hmm.
burn of irritation, the burn of frustration. You feel that whatever, wherever you carry it in your body, that little feeling in your stomach when something kind of irritates you. When those
Mm-hmm.
things come up for you, and you're interacting with another person and they seem to be reacting highly to you, then the likelihood that they're drawing from, even though you're speaking calm words, okay, then they may very well or very likely be having that emotion soaking experience that I'm speaking to. So then one identifier is if you're dealing with another person and they're acting out quite a bit, okay, then that's a good sign. If you're dealing with a person that consistently is having these what you think look like overreactions, that's a good sign. So
Mm.
a child says to another child, hey, you dropped your pencil. And this child has a big fit about it, right? There's a
Mhm.
likelihood that there are some other things going on with them. And especially now, this is very important, especially in the classroom environment, because for the very strong emotion soakers, for those who are very sensitive, if they're surrounded by a bunch of people, the likelihood that one or more of those people are not having a good day internally is very, very high. It increases with
Mm.
each person that's involved or engaged. So those are two good signs right there. Kind of unnecessary, kind of weird, what seems strange acting out behavior.
And if so, let's say, I'm new to the emotional soaking, and I'm dealing with my child, or I'm in the classroom, and I'm dealing with a child that's an emotion soaker. And so I'm recognizing it. And then how do I, either as a parent or a teacher, how do I and get that to, help that child work through that emotions?
One of the first pieces is to, and you guys, so now you're to kind of keep moving me, scoot me closer and closer to the four core, my core four strategies for the Lafaya
Mhm.
way, because this is why I created this, so that people can know what to do. So first piece, find your calm. I noticed that you just kind of took that breath, right? So
Yeah.
that's one. So one piece is, first you have to learn how to you have to learn that the importance of finding your calm. So if
As a
you're
parent,
feeling
as
some
a
kind of,
parent, right?
as a parent, as a teacher, as a, whoever's interacting with a sensitive person. So, but it's important to do those things, like take that breath. It's important to, because our bodies will tell us when we're upset too. So when we get upset, body cues are kind of that shallow breathing. We already tend towards shallow breathing, but when we get upset, we tend to hold our breath a little more, or we tend to
Mhm.
breathe more in more shallow ways, right?
Okay.
And then pay attention, take that deep breath, because that's going to help. And if you're being, kind of being extra diligent about it, when you take the deep breath, just imagine yourself kind of drawing up all the negative energy, and then on your exhale, blowing it all out. That's the purpose behind the breath. And then or we tend towards tensing our muscles when we get very
Mhm.
upset, or when we start to get upset. So pay attention, tune in. Are my shoulders tense? Are whatever parts of your body get tense whenever you get upset or frustrated or even a little bit anxious, right? Tune in and just start relaxing those muscles that tend towards tensing up, because you're going to start sending a different message to the brain, which helps you to calm a little bit more quickly. Okay. So
Mhm.
that's one piece. So you want to find your calm. um Understanding the real truth is step two, right? In my core four, right? Understanding the real truth means, if you start to really recognize, oh man, emotion soaking really is happening here, right? Okay, so I need to figure out how to, first of all, get myself regulated, but then once you recognize it in another, then you want to help them understand what's going on with them. So then you can start to validate their experience by saying things like, oh my goodness, you know what? I was having an off day, and you know what? It seems like when I just said this one thing to you, that it caused kind of this bigger reaction than expected. So is it possible, or it might be possible, that you're kind of drawn from some of my, negative energy that I had going on? Do you think that might be what happened? Because typically, you wouldn't respond with yelling at a person for telling you that you dropped your pencil, right? Kind of thing. So that's, so you create that validation experience. And so yeah, but I won't go over all the four steps, but it's getting into that. So find your commas first, but secondly, help them find theirs.
I love that, because I think that from the child's perspective, I think it's, we need to be able to do that to help them work through it, so that we can, get them not upset, get them to the next level, calm everybody down. And if you're at home, you have your, other kids there, or, other family members. And at school, you have these other children in the classroom. But it also helps the child that you're dealing with relax and be able to, because I'm sure it's not a comfortable position for them to be feeling that. And when I put myself in their shoes, and I think, how many times would they come across in one day somebody who might be upset? whether it's a teacher, it's a parent, it's another student, they're getting on the bus driver, or it could be all these people, and helping them understand that. I think, Lafayette, it's amazing. And I think that's why when I talk to people that you work with and I look at the testimonials, it all says the same thing. My student was getting ready to be expelled. That's changed. My child was having emotional issues. That's changed. And it's just your four core, and we talked about the first two, but your four core really and truly, make an impact. And I have to say this too: every person that comes across your four cores, whether they're in your core, yes, core four strategies, everybody that I talk to shares, and I've done it myself, shares it with other people. Hey, wait a minute, you got to find your calm, and you go through the whole thing. But if people who are taking your program, and when they're sharing it with other people because they find value in it, and it's not just value when they're dealing with hypersensitive children, but they find value in it when they're dealing with other people, other relationships outside of that realm. And that's what's really great about your program, because I know someone right now that's in your program, that's going through your workshop right now, that's telling everybody about your four core strategies, whether they're hypersensitive or not. And I do the same thing. Wait a minute, find your calm. And I go through the 4 steps, and it's like, but I just think it works. And I think that's why we have these conversations. That's why we go live, because this stuff works. And so you're having your next Empowering Parents PEP party, which is going to be May 22nd at 9 a.m. online. It's free and online. It's a safe place for parents to come. You want to talk about that? Take a couple of minutes to talk about that.
Sure. I definitely will be holding my PEP, and again, Parents Empowering Parents parties, which are free. Come in, learn you're going to learn something anyway. People don't leave my meetings without learning something, but you're going to, not only are you going to learn some strategies that are going to help you today, tomorrow, when you go in your home and in your other relationships. But then you're also going to learn more about the programs that I offer, because I set it up to be able to offer this program to as many people, at whatever level that you can engage with. So I have it set up to where we have group portions where it's just groups for parents. We meet once a week, and we really do dig into, because I have the books from the Lafaya Way book series, and we really dig into, and we take a deep dive into those books. So this is like taking the books, the content, which is already great, and creating this super powered effect. So what the parents are getting from that is we go over these things. They get to ask the questions right there, right then. Now ask the author. You know how you're reading a book, sometimes you're like, well, and how am I supposed to do that, right? You can't put everything in the book. This is where you get those questions answered. And that's at the lowest, that's at the lowest level of the tier, because I want to make sure that I'm educating. And then we offer things like social skills for the kids. We offer things like advocacy assistance for those parents out there, kids with special needs. So there's so much that we're offering, and I want you to come in so that you can know about these resources, not only for yourself, but for other parents that you see out there who are struggling, for your family, for your friends. Have you ever wondered, oh my goodness, they are having such a hard time with this kid, and people don't even really know how much trouble they're having. I know how much trouble they're having. It's so important to know about resources like these, because many, many times there's just not much out there that can help our most hypersensitive kids, right? And not only do that, but give you like the triple good of dealing now in professional relationships going better, and your other personal relationships going better. So now you're able to couple with others better. You're able to get along with family members better, and all that. So that's what we're bringing. The Lafaya Way, my goal, authentically, is to change the world, literally change the world one relationship at a time. And through the Lafaya Way, this can definitely be done. So come learn all you can about it.
I'm going to share this because I'm sitting with your PEP series, and here's what I really enjoy about Lafaya, and this is because it's like I use the Lafaya way with my granddaughter who is dyslexia, and she struggles to learn, and what I find in these get-togethers is these parents share their stories. They share about what they learned. They go and apply what they learned. So they learn something on a Saturday. They spend the week applying it, and then they're sharing it all throughout the week on a special Facebook group. To see these parents supporting each other, to see these parents sharing and opening up, and you create such a safe environment to where I share my stories, they share their stories, and we all come together. And I think on top of going through your book and asking the author and applying and learning the Lafaya way and the 4 core strategies, but it's that interacting with other parents, and we say, okay, you know what? I also understand what you're going through. Yes, that just happened to me last week. That happened with my son or my daughter. So that I think is the extra plus that I think that you're bringing to parents, on top of all the things that you really are bringing to these people and really helping them. And Lafay, I'm going to say I'm really proud to be part of it. Really and truly, I
Well,
believe
it
that.
is awesome. I'm excited because we truly do have an awesome group of parents anyway. But I do come from the perspective of the parents are the experts. There's some information that I have.
That's
Okay.
good.
I have
Mm-hmm.
information. I have been gifted with this information just by being myself, just a hypersensitive child in person. It's just, all this stuff just kind of came to me through learning, just through life. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But to actually be able to kind of take it, teach the concepts, and then have people out there who love their kids, their grandkids, who
Mm-hmm.
are not missing it by a mile, and they're
Mm-hmm.
wondering what the heck is going on here, man.
Yeah.
This stuff that I do, it worked for my other kids, like it worked, or when your grandparent worked for my kids, like what is going on? Why doesn't it work for this kid, right? And they're going through all that, and most of the time they're embarrassed, right? And they end up isolated. They end up
Yes.
feeling ashamed to share
Mm-hmm.
with other people, or when their kids act out, they feel embarrassed out there with other people. And then there are other people out there who don't know better. I'm just going to say they're just kind of not knowledgeable, okay, who
Mm-hmm.
will judge these parents. They have no idea what the experience is like for the parents out there who are, who are dealing with kids who have some
That's right.
emotional or, emotional behavioral issues. And everybody has well, if it were me, I would. Everybody has those, but they don't have the experience to really know. When we come into
Mm-hmm.
our meetings, we get a chance to learn that other parents out there, normal parents, good parents, even firm parents, are going through the same type of experiences, and all it takes
So
is
true.
small adjustments, and all of a sudden you're right where you need to be.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If anybody has any questions, you can put them in the comments. If you have a question for Lafaya, you can put them in the comments and we can answer them right here.
And I just want
So,
to say hi, everybody. I can, literally from this spot, I can't see who's visiting with us, or I would truly give you a shout out. So if you want me to know and you want me to say hi to you, you have to type it in there and say, hey, Lafaya, it's me, or hey, Faya, it's me. You guys know it's me, so and so, because I can't see you. But if you're joining us and if you've been watching us, I just appreciate your being here. I'm hoping that you're getting something from it. I know you're getting something from it if you've been with us from the beginning. And
mm-hmm.
so, but just leave your comments. Say, let us know. I've tried this, or I've been trying this, or oh my goodness, I'm going to try this. This is great feedback. It'll help me to know that it's what we're doing is really getting out there. People are hearing it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, again, real quick, May 22nd, 9 o'clock
Yes.
is your Parents Empowering Parents Party. And they can go on lafayaway.com under events page, and they can register for the Parents Empowering Parents Party, May 22nd. Guys, you don't want to miss this. This is amazing. Judgment-free zone. Judgment-free zone, guys.
Yes.
And you'll absolutely love it.
I am a good steward over these things. So I'm one of those parents that I make my home a safe space. And so when you guys are at home with me in my space, I make it a safe space. I do not mind kicking out those who don't want peace. Hasn't had to happen. I'm very excited about that. But if it had to happen, it just has to happen. It has to be a space where you feel free and comfortable saying what you need to say without being judged by other people. Because that's the last thing you need. You get enough of that out there. with everybody else. But I also want to share a couple other free resources for you too. We have the Q&A, the Lafaya way, where it's a parent forum. Come in, there's no obligation to stay even. Okay, you can come in, check out, see what it is we're talking about, because we talk about great things, doing a lot of things to help the parents out there. I've literally watched my parents just transform. Like the ones who have been following me for even like a month or two, before they be saying things wholly differently, working against themselves, wondering why they weren't getting good results. We make the slightest of adjustments, and all of a sudden they're teaching the other parents. So I'm like super excited about that. But we have Q&A, the Lafaya way, that we have every other Friday at 6 p.m. I actually have one coming tonight, 30 minutes from now. So if you want to check out what it is we're talking about and what we're doing tonight, I'm going to have a phenom with me, a woman who talks about food and health too. So we're going to get some little tidbits, some little advice from her as well, because we need that, especially during these crazy COVID times where everything has kind of been a little bit out of control. Finances, food. Yeah, I heard a lot about the COVID weight. I gained some myself. Then last year it was funny because last year I was like, "Ooh, okay, well, okay, we getting there. Okay." So then I lost my 30 pounds, and then I gained 20 of them boogers back. I was like, "Oh no, oh no. Okay, wait, I'm off track clearly." So let's start working on it.
How if they want to come tonight, if your Q&A, how do they sign up? Where do they go? They go on your website, right?
Okay, so you can go onto my website, lafayaway.com, and it's there under events as well. So you find under events Q&A the Lafaya Way. And again, we run every other week. Last year, I was doing the meetings weekly, and then I was like, okay, I kind of need a little bit of a break from doing it so often. So I was going to move it to monthly, and my parents were like, oh, heck no. No, we need to keep this every 2 weeks. And so I said, okay, parents win.
And there's no cost. That's what I like about it, Lafaya. You give of yourself at no cost.
Yes. And then also, you can also, if you just want to maybe get a little bit of exposure to what it is I teach, if you have a kid that's giving you, it doesn't matter why it's happening. It just matters that it's happening. If you're uncomfortable, if the peace is lacking in your home, then just give it a try listening to some of the videos. I have so many educational videos out there for you. You'll probably be able to find one on exactly what you need to know about. And if you can't find it, please leave in comments, or go into the contact us on lafayaway.com. Email me, and you get all my information through the contact us. But email me and say, hey, you know what? I looked through your videos and you didn't answer this question, or this is my problem. I need this question answered. And I will, and especially right now, you better catch me now though, because it's starting to get really busy. But especially now, I will take the time out to make your subject one of my weekly subjects. So just reach out to me before I get extra, well, should I say extra times 1,000? Oh no, extra times 100 more busy, because right now I'm extra busy.
All right, Lafaya, thank you for coming on, and I'm glad we had this conversation. And I think emotional soaking is very important, especially with hypersensitive children. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you all for joining. Have a wonderful night. Come join me at Q&A.
Q&A tonight at 6 o'clock, you guys.